Welcome back to another episode of CHP Sports. I am your host, Anthony DeRazio. To my left is Kenny Barber. Kenny, how you doing today?
Doing good. Monday. Almost done.
Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost done for you. I've got put together the podcast. Ariana will be out on the 1st, so tomorrow. So by the time you see this, you should go listen to the CHP podcast. It's about body image. And I am actually not the host this week or this month. I need a break. I was burnt out. So Ariana was kind enough to take over hosting duties. So go listen to it. It's fantastic.
Cool.
I also need to put together an exam by tomorrow morning and try and do a workout. So
no biggie. Get it done.
Yeah, exactly.
You ever got a whole 4 hours left of the day here?
Yeah, at least. At least. There you go. Well, we are coming off a divisional right? conference, I guess, championship weekend.
Yeah.
In the NFL. Two very close, exciting games. I thought. I thought both were a lot of fun to watch. Maybe not so much the first half of the Bengals Chiefs game, but the second half was a lot of fun watching the comeback. So let's start there.
I have a lot of opinions about that game.
so let's start there.
Things.
Let's start with Bengals Chiefs. Chiefs get out to an early lead, 21-3. Literally just dominating the first half. They end the game, or they end the first half down at like the 3 or 4 yard line. 5 seconds left. They decide not to take the points on the board. Mahomes throws it to Hill in the flat, and Hill, nice play by the defender, who I forget who it was, but he gets out there, makes the stop in the open field. The clock runs out because there's no timeouts. No points on the board. Thoughts about that sequence, sort of that first half? We'll start there.
I have a couple opinions about this, and I've talked about it all year with these field goals and how it costs people games. Well, guess what? It cost you going to the Super Bowl. Now, I don't think it was planned. I think that was supposed to be a quick in-zone pass, incomplete or not, and then they come out and kick the field goal. And and I throw this out a lot to I'm in a group chat with some softball guys, and I'm like, that game was fixed, right? You can't tell me that Patrick Mahomes in the second half was making those throws like that. He looked like he never played football before in his life. And how do you go from dominating 21-3, you scored 21 points in 6 minutes, and then you had -1 yard going into the end of the fourth? I don't understand it. It was a weird game to me. The play at the end of the half made absolutely no sense at all. And they should have just kicked a field goal, and they would have been up 24-10 at half, and they would have won 27-24 to end the game. So that's my first kind of I don't get it. I don't understand. It's been happening all year. We've talked about it all year. These coaches just not kicking the field goal, or going for two too early, and here it shakes out where they're at the end of the game. They could have been driving for the game-winning field goal, but instead they were driving just to tie the game. And all of a sudden, they didn't know how to play offense. And Mahomes is throwing balloon balls and just play the 17-yard loss and fumble before they kicked the tying. What was that? That is the absolute last. That's the first thing you learn as a quarterback. Don't take that sack. He's running around. I don't know what's happening. It was very confusing, and I think he's an amazing athlete quarterback. Don't get me wrong, but there was just some really bizarre plays at the end of that game. Really bizarre changes in the game with how they just couldn't even get a yard. Right, they were up and down the field early on, and then they just now look. People make adjustments. I get that, but it seemed extreme at this point, right? And I give the Bengals credit. They came back. They weathered the storm. Joe Burrow is a cool cat, right? He reminds me of a new Tom Brady, if you will. He just has it. Whatever it is, he has it. And they came back and they stopped them in overtime. Good. Now that we argue that overtime does work, right? Because they had the ball first and they didn't win. So yeah, that's my opinion on all that. I was very confused about that game. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean I agree. So starting at the end of I think the Chiefs dominated the first half. Cincinnati got completely outplayed. 5 seconds left. that's tight, and with the weapons you have on the team, I mean, I think I'm with you where you have enough time to do a quick, like, near pylon, where you do run the short out right to the pylon,
Yeah,
the
quick
close
out. If he
pylon.
gets it, cool. If not, it's incomplete. You
Yeah,
can
and it's
still win.
3 seconds, right? It's 3 seconds, 4 seconds max. You end up with 1 second left on the clock. It's either touchdown or incompletion. You need to kick the field goal, right?
Yeah,
But it has to be
yeah,
right. It's a 3-step drop fire, and that's it. Um, honestly, I think Mahomes I think he brain farted, and he also sort of thought, well, it's Tyreek Hill, like it's Tyreek Hill in open space. It'll probably work,
yeah.
right?
Which
And
look, 90% of the time it might, right? But in one brain fart, two brain farts, okay. There was like six
yes,
you know what I mean?
yeah. So that was to me. I mean, I thought that was a missed opportunity to get some easy points, right? Like again, it's one thing if you're down big there, like if you had trouble getting into the end zone, maybe like if you're, let's say it's 21-3 and you have the three there and you know the other team's going to score, they're a high scoring
100%.
team,
Go
then
for
you
it.
go for
Yeah.
I can understand trying to get the touchdown there. But if you're up 21, whatever, it was 3 or 10, kick the field goal, right? Like you're already leading. Just take the more extra points. It's 3 points.
And football's a
Second
momentum
half,
game. It's a
yeah,
momentum game. And Kansas City goes into the half with their head down. The Bengals go in like, hey, that's a huge stop. It's 21-10 now after all that. And, we're only down 11 points right now.
yeah. It looked like the second half, since he made some good adjustments on offense. They started to work more across. Let's see, I think they were working more crossing routes. It seemed like, and not necessarily trying to push it down the field to Chase, who was usually getting safety over the top cover help.
But then
Um,
mysteriously, they weren't helping him. They were in the second half. They were
yeah,
single
well, yeah. Then they backed off.
covering.
I think because they were getting good completions to Boyd
Yeah,
and Higgins.
yeah. Higgins
They
was
were kind of
doing a lot of good stuff, which opened
Higgins
it
had
up a
some
little
really good
bit.
catches.
The other kicker with
Um,
the not kicking the field goal was they were getting the ball in the second half. You kick the field goal, go up 24-10, and then you start out the second half with the ball. You could go up 27-10 or 31-10.
31-10.
Like I don't get it. But yeah, I agree. Like they made adjustments, and then Chase was open, right? And then bam, he's all over the place. Higgins opened
Yeah,
that up.
yeah. And to be fair, I mean he's Jamar Chase and it's Joe Burrow. Like they're going to get their completions together.
Yeah,
Um, to me it was. I agree. I think it was more the fact that Cincinnati scored wasn't surprising, right?
no,
They're a good team. They're a very good
we saw
offensive team.
Kansas City's defense last week. We know it wasn't their strong point.
Yeah, the issue was really Kansas City's offense disappearing, and yeah, I mean, I don't. I we talked about this earlier in this year when the Chiefs played a few games, and I feel like Mahomes when he throws the ball up sometimes, and Hill or Kelsey goes up and makes some phenomenal play, he looks really good. Or he throws a crossing route to, Tyreek and he takes it 50 yards, because he is faster than everyone. Right? It makes Mahomes look really good, which he is. Like he is extremely, extremely good. But he also has guys around him that make some of his maybe more questionable decisions tend to work out in his favor.
Yeah,
Last night they didn't work out in his favor. Like, he was off, if you run around like a maniac, like the dude is Quicksilver. He's very difficult to tackle in the backfield, right? Which, you do that once, okay. Do that twice, okay. Right after a certain number of times, you're going to start to believe yourself, like, man, they just can't tackle me back here, right? So the next time you're going to keep running around because history has taught you can always make a play,
yeah.
right? So you run around, and eventually it's going to happen where what happened when Hubbard came in, got that big loss and the fumble that would have ended the game
Oh
had Cincy
my
recovered
gosh!
it.
Yeah.
My wife
I
was
was
going
like,
nuts for that
I
one.
was like, what is happening? Just throw the ball away, like throw it out of the end zone, like take the field goal.
Yeah, so I don't think Cincy's offense ever adjusted to what I don't think Kansas City's offense adjusted to what Cincinnati was doing defensively that second half, and it showed. Right, they weren't. They weren't really bringing pressure. They were trying more to contain Mahomes than really try and sack him per se.
I
If they
saw,
really try to bring pressure, it was tending to be a fourth guy late.
yeah, and I saw a good thing. It was like, Brady in that situation, he's going to take those underneath routes because they're not giving you anything deep. They're playing
Yeah.
too deep, right? They're trying to take away the deep threat. Where that's what Mahomes maybe lacking in right now is learning to take those little short dumps and work down the field and stop looking downfield all the time. So maybe that's all it was. Maybe the guys were open, but he just wasn't hitting them. He's looking for something bigger all the time.
Yeah,
And
certainly seemed that way.
yeah,
So yeah, really cool game. Cool that went to overtime. Congrats to the Bengals and Joe Burrow. Played a great game.
yeah.
It's
I
cool to see
mean,
them in the Super Bowl.
hats off to them. They've been a grinding out, like kind of just fight tooth and nail team all year, and they got some talent, man, and their defense is tough. So it is cool to see a different team. I mean, honestly, we've seen Tampa Bay, Kansas City, those types, the Green Bays, the Buffaloes, right? That's been the teams that have been there the last few years. So seeing something different, it's cool. I like it.
So second game, Rams 49ers battle for California, even though it wasn't really marketed as such.
Yeah.
In LA, pretty mixed, seemed like a mixed crowd. A lot of 49ers fans, it seemed like, at the game, but a lot of Rams fans, which hasn't always been the case. I thought it was an entertaining game. I thought the first half was kind of a tale of two halves for me personally. Like, I thought the first half was really dominated by the Rams, even though they were losing at the half. I was like, it was like every time I was watching looked up, was paying attention, it seemed like the Rams were marching on the field.
Yeah, they had the
And
ball. Like, I forget what the time of possession was, but
like
then Stafford threw that pick on the
one
first
pick.
drive. Yeah, they were down at like the 2. I mean, I looked away and I looked back, and the 49ers had the ball. I thought they were scoring. I'm like, what just happened? And then it's like, oh, Stafford threw a pick. So that took away points right there, at least 3.
Yeah, they missed a field goal too. The guy had shanked a field goal, I think.
Yeah, just some missed opportunities.
Yeah,
sure.
and it was just weird. And then I think I can't remember if it was the first half or the second half, but there was a drive where Stafford threw two. He threw one to Cup where Cup was wide open, probably would have scored, and he threw another one like 3 plays later to another receiver. I forget who it was, who was also wide open and definitely would have scored. Like, he was almost in the end zone, and both guys dropped both wide open passes. And this was like, I'm sure you know what drive I'm talking about. And I was like, this is gonna be one of those games where if they lose, they're gonna blame Stafford. And I'm like, he had 2 receivers that were wide open, drop touchdown passes on the same drive. He hit them both in stride.
Yeah.
So, so just the first half was weird because I didn't think the 49ers played particularly well. Like, they didn't play bad, but they played like the 49ers have all season, where they kind of hung around, did enough to get stops and like a timely interception. And their offense, they had like one big play on offense to get that touchdown, like where the guy got mostly on the field and they ended up scoring the touchdown. They say like one good drive. That was it. Like the rest of the half, they didn't really do much of anything.
Yeah, Debo had a nice play there on that screen.
Yeah, Debo. Yeah, I mean that was the one where he scored. He is phenomenal.
He's a great football player. Great.
He is a phenomenal player of the football.
Yes.
But second half was much more even. I thought both teams played really pretty well. Second half, it felt more even. And Rams end up pulling it out.
I mean, Stafford did throw another pick. The guy just dropped it.
Oh yeah, that one. That guy.
That was crazy. I mean, that would have made a huge difference, I think, in the game. But
I mean, he's on defense.
Yeah, I felt bad for that guy. You hate seeing plays like that, right? And on either end, it's just a big play that could have changed the game. But yeah, they pull it out in the end, and now they get to play another home game, which is interesting. And it's happened now.
It's wild.
A couple of years in a row with Tampa Bay, and now this year. So that's pretty cool. And again, another different team. I'm happy for Stafford, right? He's been a guy, imagine, like you said, imagine Barry Sanders getting out one year and playing for like the Cowboys, and he could, back then he gets to go to
behind that offensive line in the 90s.
Yeah. Oh my God. Imagine those numbers with that team. And he's throwing to Beckham and Cup and, Higbee, all these stud receivers, and he's got a phenomenal defense. And, they went all in, right? They definitely went all in this year. they kind of sold their souls, if you will, and they made it to the Super Bowl, right? So I mean, they got Von Miller, they got all these guys, right? And it's worked out. They're in the Super Bowl. So secretly, I'm rooting for Denver because Von Miller's in the Super Bowl, but he did play for Denver this year. But I also love the Burrow Chase story. I think it's really cool that those guys have just been doing it since college, and so it should be an interesting Super Bowl for sure.
Yes, I agree. I don't know if I have a rooting favorite yet. Probably leaning towards Bengals, but I honestly I kind of like both teams, so I don't really care. Even as they're here talking here on the local Columbus stations. I was listening as I was driving home from teaching. They were talking about what are Browns fans feeling right now? I was like, I don't know. I
Yeah,
feel fine. Like Joe Burrow's real easy guy to root for. Now
yeah.
Rams are fun to watch. Like I don't know.
Both teams are easy to root for. Good stories, right? Good.
Yeah, I like good football.
Yeah, I just want to see a good game as always in a Super Bowl. If my team's not in, I want to see good football and good stories, and I think we'll have that. It should be an interesting game.
And which should be a good halftime show, which I'm
Oh
sure
yeah,
will
I
be.
saw the line up there. That does look
Oh,
good.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Very excited. So we will actually preview the Super Bowl next week. We're not going to preview it yet. We'll give ourselves a week to think about it and give our thoughts on the halftime show because I'm sure I want to preview that because it's amusing to me. But in other news this week, we have the Winter Olympics starting up. I would love to preview it, but I don't know any of the people involved. Unlike the Summer Olympics, I don't follow the individual sports that closely. Kenny, do you follow them? Do you get excited about the Winter Olympics? How do you feel about the Winter Olympics?
I like it. Like, I'll definitely watch some of the stuff. Even as a kid, like I was uh, like blown away with like the downhill skiing and the jumpers. The ski jumping
The ski
is
jumping, yeah.
I like that was fascinating to me. I think now with the trick guys, like it's kind of
Oh yeah.
overshadowed it a bit, which those guys are equally insane. But yeah, I like the new sports. I like the snowboarding and the ski jumping and the trick ski jumping, and I think it's all cool. Like I like to watch it. I've always been impressed by like the extreme type sport athlete. I think they're a different breed of human. Like big wave surfers, and I'm fascinated by that. I think it's I've never been a big risk taker myself, right? So it definitely intrigues me to watch others do it as long as it's not me. So yeah, I'm interested in that stuff. I think growing up, it was always like the ice skating, right? I felt like that was like the big. That was like the gymnastics, right? That was always the big event. But I think too that it's still cool to watch like the what's it called, the luge and the bobsled, and like I always loved watching that stuff too. And I heard the bobsled team actually had got COVID, the U.S. bobsled team.
Oh,
So hopefully that doesn't affect too much. But so yeah, I do like the Winter Olympics. I like a lot of the events. I think it's fun, and we'll see what happens. It should be. Hopefully everybody's like healthy, COVID free, all that kind of stuff, and they can participate. Right? You hate seeing people train their whole year and then or for 4 years and then it goes away. Right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's interesting because I definitely, even though I don't follow sports outside of when the Olympics are happening, I get into all of them. The figure skating, I do. Watching the figure skating, I think Johnny Weir and Tara Lipinski do the sort of commentary, and they are like brutal. Like they're hilarious, but they'll also like make these little scathing comments where you're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe they said that. That's amazing." So I get into figure skating a little bit. I don't understand like anything that's happening, right? Like I have no
Yeah.
clue, like what the difference between a triple Lutz and a triple
No,
twirl.
I just think it's cool when they do it. I'm like,
Yeah,
whoa,
like
that's
it's
badass.
super
Yeah.
impressive. Like
Yeah.
there was some on yesterday, and I was flipping to it like during commercials. One of the football games at one point while I was eating, and I was like, I just saw one skater. She's out there doing her thing, and she's been out there for like 2 minutes. All she's doing jumps. I'm like, how is she doing like this? She's got to be tired, and she's doing these like
Yeah. Aren't you tired?
triple spins. Like it's very impressive. I think that the speed skating is cool just because like I guess
Yeah,
because
that's
I can
another.
relate to that a little bit more. Like it's hard to get a sense of how fast they're going
It's
because you're
another
not,
cool sport for sure. Yeah.
the short track is nuts. Like short track where they're like constantly turning is nuts because it's so like there's so much element of randomness. Like if you catch someone else's skate and you go down, like you're
Yeah.
out. That's it. That's your Olympics.
Yeah.
Um, the half pipe for the like snowboarding and ski stuff is really cool because like you said, just seeing the tricks they can do is really impressive. Again, it's I don't like I have to listen to the announcers to tell how like cool a trick is. I guess
Yeah.
right.
You're like, it
I
all
think because
looks
they all
cool to
look
me.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
they all look cool. Like occasionally there'll be one where I'm like that look extra special, and they'll be like,
Yeah.
oh he's the first person or she was the first person to do that trick. I'm like, oh
I
okay.
like the snowmobile guys too that do flips and shit. I mean, that is like the
That's
Moto X, but it's with snowmobiles now. That is crazy to me too.
yeah, that's crazy. The downhill stuff. I always have to watch it for a little bit to figure out the rules because like the slalom and the down one's slalom and one's like downhill
One's
or
down.
something.
Yeah, those guys are complete psychopaths, by the
Yeah,
way.
but it's like I like when they have the camera like right on the course so you can actually see how fast they're going as they whip
It's
by.
crazy.
And you can see like the actual like how steep the drops are on
Yeah,
the
it's like this.
hill. Yeah, because I've never been skiing, so I don't really have much of an idea. Like me
I
going, I'm
have, and I imagine like so. I'm gonna say at my fastest speed, I've probably gone like 30 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour. I don't even know, maybe 30 down a hill. And these guys are going like 90, 100. I don't even know how fast they go.
yeah, I think it's
I can't even fathom it. Like it doesn't make any sense to me. And like when I'm going down the hill, it's probably more like this, right? And I probably think I'm going 30, but I'm probably going like
right.
15,
Yeah,
right? So it's crazy to me that what they do. And I was always fascinated by that downhill, just straight up. And then they hit the jumps and they just float over it's because they're just going so fast. It's such a cool sport to me.
yeah, those are cool. So yeah, I get in all of those sports. I would say the ones I'll end up watching on like a midday on a Saturday, like I'll put it on like while I'm doing my workout down here, is they'll have like cross country. What's the one where they do the cross country and they shoot the rifle?
The shooting too. Yeah. Yeah. That's a
There's a
cool one
name
too.
for it.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
forget what it's called, but that's cool. I like
right.
watching that too.
Yeah, I'll watch it just because there's like the drama builds more there. I find like if it ends up being a close race, like and someone's like coming from behind, the other guy's like the other competitor's starting to falter. There's like
Yeah.
oh this tension building up. Like it's like a long distance race.
Yeah.
I don't really care about the shooting because I'm not a gun person, but it's like it's still cool to like root for. Like he missed it. He's got to go to the penalty thing. Like the guy do the
Yeah.
penalty loop or something. Do you miss? So it's I get into all of it. The athletes are phenomenal. I don't. I do think I miss that connection that I think is more there with the Summer Olympics. I think we talked about this with the Summer Olympics, where everyone runs, everyone jumps, right? Even at least as a kid, you ran, you jumped. Right here at CHP, obviously we do lots of running, and jumping, and lifting. Right, so it's all a bit more relatable for I would say the average person.
Yeah. I've never
That
trained like a downhill skier, right?
yeah, at no point, like I just said, I've never been skiing. You've been skiing like a couple, a little bit, but not much.
Mm.
I've never done the curling, any of that stuff.
That's another funny sport that I'll watch.
Yeah, it's like all
Yeah.
these sports that again, I'll get sucked into and be super
Mm.
impressed by, but I don't, it's at a certain point you're just good, right? To me, like you're just above a certain level, you're just all very extremely good.
I
Right?
feel like too
I can't differentiate.
with a lot of the winter sports, I'm always like, where do you even do that at? Like, I don't even know where I would practice that, right? Because it's just not
Where does
like,
one get started with this sport?
yeah, like track, you can just go run, right? Or like if you're throwing something, you can just get a shot put ball and throw it, right? Any of those sports in the Summer Olympics, right? I feel like I can relate to in that sense, where it's like, I don't know where I would. I mean, I know where I would go. I'd have to live at a mountain somewhere for some of the stuff. But then like curling, it's like, where does that happen at? I've never, what I mean? Where's there like a curling league?
So I will say, I actually on the radio today, they mentioned like there's a curling club here in Columbus.
Yeah.
So here in
You need,
Columbus, apparently there's a curling club.
yeah, and you didn't even know, right? So it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah. So that, and I feel like a lot of the athletes are more faceless and nameless. Like I don't know them.
Yeah.
except for when like Shaun White was snowboarding and he was like
He's still snowboarding.
Yeah, but he was like a
Yeah.
skateboarder, snowboarder, kind of a household name. And I figure like the figure skaters have
Yeah.
some household names too, right? That's back in the day, like think of like what was her name, Dorothy Hamill, and like those types
Yeah.
that were gold medalists or whatever they won, and Nancy Kerrigan and that whole thing, and right, it was always the figure skating that kind of gave them a name and a face. But yeah, anymore, like I don't really know. I'm not sure who it is.
I forgot to mention. I know you mentioned bobsled, but I forgot. I do like watching bobsled. Bobsled's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's an awesome
Yeah,
sport.
it's a good one.
Another crazy sport that I'm like, where do I do this at?
It's only matched in terms of sheer craziness because I kind of get the idea, like in the actual bobsled, it's like okay, like it's cool to see how powerful the athletes are, like when they're
Yeah,
sprinting to get it going. Like it's really cool.
yeah,
I kind of get the idea of like, all right, you all jump in and go down it like this ice tube in a sled, right? A protected kind of sled. I get that.
yeah.
The skeleton folks that go down like with nothing, where it's just
On their
a little,
back, right? That
yeah, on their
luge thing.
back,
Is that what it's? Yeah, it's like it's
skeleton luge,
crazy.
I think.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy.
like you're insane, like you're insane,
And you
right?
fall and you
So
just slide for like 100 yards, and you just keep sliding. There's no stopping
yes,
you. Yeah, like you
yes,
just keep sliding. It's a crazy sport. Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, so that is starting up. I think Wednesday or Thursday officially starts this
soon.
week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is this week. So I'm sure I'll be watching opening ceremonies, and then as I have time, I'm sure I will get sucked into all of them. And by next Monday when we record, I will be an expert in about 15 different sports and ready to talk about all of them. I'm sure. Um,
Yep.
there was a wrestling match you wanted to talk about this week.
Yeah, big college match. It's usually the match of the year, just because they're always like 1 and 2 in the country. Penn State versus Iowa. Um, Penn State won this year. Iowa won last year. Penn State's been pretty dominant overall, but Iowa got them last year, and then this year it was a good match. I thought it was a lot closer than I thought. And the crazy thing is about it is a lot of the matchups are like 1 versus 2 in the country, 1 versus 3 in the country. Like, yeah, so it's like every match is like could be a national championship. The one was a repeat of the national championship last year, and Penn State squeaked out those matches. Some of them went to sudden victories. It was a really tight match and a lot tighter than I think people thought it was going to be, because Iowa lost their national champ at 125 because he tore both his ACLs and won the national championship last year with 2 torn ACLs. Talk about a freak show. Yeah, but he decided to sit out this year and get them fixed after wrestling a few matches earlier in the year. I guess it just became too painful. So he was out. So like that was a win and their backup also got hurt. So now they were on their third string 125 pounder. So Penn State got the points there. And then a lot of people thought Penn State was going to win heavyweight, and they ended up losing. So the match was way closer. So it was a good match. A lot of good, tight 1-point sudden victory stuff. So shout out to college wrestling. It was a great, good match. I just thought it was awesome, and a good preview of what's to come at nationals and stuff like that. So
Now, just remind me, our college wrestling is folk style and Olympic is freestyle, right?
correct, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and there's always debate about that. Like, why don't we wrestle more freestyle? But then we go to Worlds and we do great, and Olympics and we do great. So I think there's some good carryover from folk to, because mostly everybody else around the world was just freestyle. But like our scholastic and high school, college, it's all the regular folk style wrestling. So I mean,
Yeah, it always confuses me because I never know like what rule set I'm watching, and then like when they're doing stuff, I like wait, is that points? Wait, that is
yeah,
points in this one apparently.
you're like,
So
what is happening? Yeah,
yeah,
so it's definitely different styles, and a lot of guys do wrestle both growing up if they're really good. So you'll see them wrestling both if they have aspirations to wrestle, on the world level. So, but yeah, cool match this week. But again, a good preview of the future of this NCAA championship. So
well, very cool.
yeah, man.
If people were interested, like where would you watch that? Where would you
So
find that to follow?
the Big Ten Network. In the fall, you'll see a lot of football games on there. And now it's basketball, wrestling, and usually Friday nights are the bigger matches for wrestling. So like 6, 7 o'clock, they'll have usually 2 Big Ten matchups. Big Ten is like the SEC of football, right? It's by far the best conference in the country, and you're wrestling a top 10 ranked guy every week, basically. So it's really tough. It's a grind, and the Big Ten tournament is as tough as the national tournament most of the time. So if you can win, a lot of times guys will win the Big Tens and then lose in the nationals, or opposite, right? They'll take second in the Big Ten and win a national title. So like that's how tough it is in the Big Ten. So yeah, Big Ten Network, or there's like a Big Ten Plus. I think they have some matches too. And sometimes ESPNU or ESPN Plus will have them, but basically Big Ten Network is your best bet. Friday nights they have matches.
Good. I did not know that. I've seen it on there once you said it. I was like, oh yeah, I have seen it on there. That's cool to know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that does it for this week. We're going to keep this as a shorter episode, try and keep these closer to 30 minutes. Next week, we should be back with our Super Bowl preview. And we'll probably talk about some Winter Olympics and whatever else may or may not happen in the sports world. Kenny, have anything to add?
Basketball is still happening, but we'll get to
basketball that. Basketball is still happening.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it more as the football season, after the football season ends, and the basketball season sort of the focus shifts over there and the sort of run towards the playoffs there. Lots of good storylines. We just don't have all the time in the world. So we will see you next week. Follow, click the link, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Share. Yay. Follow us on Instagram. Yeah. Follow us on Instagram. Links below. We will see you next week. Peace out.
See you.